The Buck Sexton Show.
We're joined by Kat Timpf. She is of National Review, and she's written a piece on National Review that's called 7 Other Things That Have Been Declared Unsafe at Colleges. We'll have some fun with this one. Kat, thank you for calling in.
Oh, thanks for having me.
All right, so we can just go down the list. Bill Maher, unsafe for colleges. Please explain.
Yeah, seriously, unsafe. It's actually along the same line as the whole American Sniper being unsafe, making Muslim students unsafe, because he made jokes joking about the Muslim religion, or talking about it, and that's enough to make the students unsafe. And oh man, I just hate the use of the word unsafe when really I think what they mean is uncomfortable. Unsafe means you are in danger.
Well, one thing that I think you get used to, and were you a part of like college or campus Republicans or conservatives in any capacity? Because I mean, I was at my school, years ago, because I'm an old man. And there was we just understood that we were constantly, everyone was going to think that we were crazy, and that most of the classes in the humanities that we would take in one way or another would at some point completely spit on our beliefs and make us feel like we're a bunch of lunatics. So you get used to it after a while. I mean, it's actually a good thing, I think, for some people, is that you no longer have to feel like, I'm worried about the possibility of offense, because you become numb to it if you're a campus Republican.
Right. Well, I went to Hillsdale, which, everybody was Republican.
Conservative.
However,
okay. I didn't know that.
No,
all right, fair enough.
2 weeks after I left, graduated, I moved to Los Angeles, and so that was a really rude awakening for me, really. I mean, and then I do things with stand-up comedy in the comedy world, and everybody I meet, I just know they assume I'm an idiot and I'm intolerant and I hate everybody. And yeah, you kind of just do get used to it. And you actually have to think about your views. You actually have to think about why you believe the things you believe. And that makes you actually better able to explain them and, rather than just say, oh, yeah, I'm right, and actually have no idea why you think what you think.
All right. You've got another one here. Face paint of any color at any event ever banned on campus. Why?
It's because unsafe. It makes students feel unsafe. I don't know if they were just trying to avoid, controversy with blackface, and that's what I thought at first, but I read it and it says whether the theme is black, maroon, gold, or white. So no, just face paint in general, because they want to be more inclusive. I could see maybe this was a kindergarten classroom and they were worried the children would be afraid of, I don't know, some kids are scared of clowns or something like that. I don't know, but it makes absolutely no sense to me why an adult would be too scared to be around somebody with face paint on, right? You go to a carnival.
Well, you could be scared of them, but if they're shirtless and it's about 10 degrees below zero, let's say at a PAX game or something, and they've got face paint on, but it's not the paint that's scaring you. Then it's the possibility that this individual is about to completely lose it if the team loses. But you got another one here: a petting zoo camel. Tell me about that one.
Right, and it wasn't worried that the camel would go nuts. It was a petting zoo camel. It was worried basically due to racial tensions, right, that this would be racist against Middle Eastern students, and so racist that it would cause problems, that it would be, quote, direct quote, possibly unsafe for anybody who attended. I feel like it's almost a little racist to come up with this idea, right, to say, camels are in the Middle East, so it's offensive, going to be offensive.
I was actually just telling someone earlier today, I've spent some time around camels. I've ridden a little bit on camels, and one is you're terrifyingly high up there. It's very uncomfortable, but also on top of that, they're very nasty creatures, there are some animals that you wouldn't know are nasty until you spend time around them. Camels are on the list. Koalas are apparently really nasty, even though they look absolutely adorable. But other than the safety issues of having a camel, I don't think it should be considered a racial issue to have a petting zoo camel, but...
Right, unsafe was due to people getting so emotionally upset that it was bad for their emotional health by the fact that there was this camel. It had nothing to do with, oh no, this camel might kick us in the face. I don't know if they do that or not. I'm not a camel expert. I'll admit that.
They spit. It's nasty. Yeah, it's really gross.
It was just to take selfies with the camel, pet the camel, and that was apparently too much for these adult students to handle.
Another one we got on here on your list, the word bullet. What's up with that one?
The word bullet, right. This school newspaper was called The Bullet, and they changed it to the Blue and Gray Press because the word bullet propagated violence. They didn't want to be associated with the word bullet. So, I mean, bullet in a newspaper sense is more like, oh, speedy news or something like that. It's not, okay, this newspaper's called The Bullet, you should get a bunch of bullets and shoot someone, right? Would anybody think that? I guess so.
No. Although they did change the name of they went from the Washington, it was the Washington Bullets, and I remember that in D.C., the basketball team. They changed from the Washington Bullets to the Washington Wizards, which, I don't know, Wizards that would not have been my first choice. But we're getting to a point now.
Offensive too, right? There's a lot of evil wizards out there. That might be offensive to.
What about people with extensive? What about people with extensive facial hair, Kat? I mean, are we mocking 3-foot long beards now all of a sudden? Like that's that's okay?
With magical powers.
I don't know what to say.
I mean, I don't know.
If I walk around in a robe with moons and suns and things on it, I don't expect to be made fun of because that's my choice and that's my decision. We got another one here. I like this one. Calling freshmen. By the way, this was true at my school already, so this was true years ago. But calling freshman students freshmen, not allowed anymore. Why?
Well, they believe at this school in North Carolina, Elon University, that makes women look vulnerable and suggests that they might be targets for sexual violence. So it's actually dangerous. There's an increased chance that these women would be sexually assaulted because they're called freshmen.
Oh my gosh, that's actually, just so you know, when I was at Amherst 10 years ago now, they started calling everyone first years. But right. The reason that they gave at that point was that they didn't want it to be freshmen. And they didn't want to break it down into fresh women and fresh men because that would just be weird. So yeah, it became first years. And I know that they do this in law school already, and they have for some time. But at Amherst, it became first year. I'd never heard though that like the fresh component of this was actually the objectionable part. Essentially, that someone's fresh to the scene and may therefore be a target. That's a new one.
To the point where they thought it was actually dangerous and putting women at risk. I mean,
right, to call them freshmen would put them at risk. That's
I highly doubt that the reason anybody would be sexually assaulting someone is because of being called a freshman.
What did they call at Hillsdale? Were the first years like Hamiltonians and the second years Federalists and the third years? I mean, or just freshmen, sophomore, junior? Freshmen.
So we were, and you know what? Believe it or not, I'm fine. I'm emotionally healthy. I endured it, and I made it through despite being called a freshman. So there is hope, kids.
Yeah, I remember people at Amherst complaining to me, some of my female friends complaining, saying that they never received as much attention, guys asking them out on dates and stuff, as they did freshman year because, it's the first time people are meeting you. Especially if you go to a small school, everybody gets tired of everybody else really quickly. Okay, well, I actually have told the audience before, Kat, a story about mine. This is on your list, so just tell me which one you're speaking of, but I had my own problem with this. Cinco de Mayo-themed parties.
Right. Cinco de Mayo themed parties. It's war on tacos. You've heard about this a lot. Anything cultural appropriation. This is all cultural appropriation. I don't think anybody is going to see a Cinco de Mayo party and think that that's what Mexico's like or what Mexican people do all the time. It's just Cinco de Mayo. People just associate it with Cinco de Mayo specifically. And the student wrote a piece saying, a student in a Hispanic Latino Alliance group at Northwestern University basically told students don't drink tequila or eat tacos at parties. And then they wrote another letter afterwards saying, no, we weren't ridiculous. It's just that, quote, drinking tequila shots while saying things like Cinco de Drinko basically contributes to a campus climate where Mexican students feel unwelcome and, yes, also unsafe.
That's amazing. I actually had my own run-in with the campus authorities on this issue and was involved in a very large planning of a Cinco de Mayo party. And there were some issues, like, for example, we on the initial invitation, which went out to the whole campus, somebody wrote Mexican independence, which it is not. It is a victory at the Battle of Puebla that is being commemorated, but neither here nor there. But I just want everyone to know, I drink tequila not because I'm appropriating anyone's culture, but because it's delicious and gluten-free. All right, we have one more here, Kat. Posters. Tell me about the posters ban.
Right, Boston College. It's so ironic. These were free speech posters specifically that students put up advocating for free speech without officially registering as a campus group before putting these pieces of paper. But they didn't just handle it like, oh, you broke this school policy. The school administrators called the cops, and the dean was complaining, and he was saying, it wasn't just a nuisance, but it was in some cases a safety hazard. I don't know what, he thinks a safety hazard means, and I don't know where these kids could have possibly been putting pieces of paper that were a safety hazard. I mean, what were they setting them on fire in the hallway? Other than that, I can't think of...
Yeah, safety concerns have now replaced the verbiage used to be hostile environment, and that's taken right out of Title IX, and there's some federal law that uses the phrase hostile environment, and that used to be the catch-all. So anytime someone didn't like something and wanted to ban it, they would say, "I think it's creating a hostile environment." But now, safety. Because safety is even better than hostile. Like a hostile environment, you can say, what is that? I think people over time recognize that that's whatever you say it is. But a safety issue, that's we need a safety first, right? safety before everything else. So. And
Title IX is what really gives these people power, because especially since if you violate it, you can be penalized financially. So you're afraid not only the media backlash of you're a racist school or you're a sexist school, but also actually financially tangible consequences for not just being as careful as possible and just banning. When in doubt, ban the thing. Yeah. Basically the standard.
You have anything coming up or you're working on you want to tell everybody about before we go to commercial here?
Yeah, I'm about ready to publish my view on this whole Clorox being accused of racism for tweeting about why there wasn't a bleach emoji with the new emojis. Basically, they said, why is there's no bleach emoji, and they're saying, so you're saying that you want to bleach out the new racially diverse emoji, and they actually apologize, which is just as bad as the people who say these things, because that legitimizes things that should be only ridiculed.
Yeah, I didn't even know this one. I got to look this one up. So this will be on nationalreview.com coming up soon?
Yep, coming up soon.
All right. Kat Timpf of National Review. You can follow her on Twitter at Kat Timpf, Timpf. Thanks for calling in, Kat. Good to talk to you.
All right. Thanks. Good to talk to you, too.
Buck Sexton, only on
the Blaze Radio Network.